Phillipsburg Town Council meeting, November 22nd, 2022. This is a presentation regarding the Cal Ripken Foundation. This video will discuss a potential baseball field and possibly other athletic fields that can be used that will be funded in part by the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation and donations from the local community.
And then also, one major thing is the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation. Months ago, my buddy Jeff Finnegan grabbed me and he's like, "Hey, Tark, we got a great opportunity to do this." Talked about having a multi-purpose field done right at Walters Park. And we've had a couple meetings so far. Every meeting went fantastic. With the mayor's support and the council members' support, I think this would be so good for Phillipsburg to have this. And I'd like to invite Dr. James Brennan and Mr. Finnegan up at this time who are going to take over from here. So guys, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. First, I want to say thank you for inviting us to this meeting. Jeff Finnegan called me. I had to look in my planner to see how recent it was, not how long ago it was. This was the first Saturday in October. He calls me and says, "Jim, do you know anything about the Cal Ripken Foundation?" And I said, "Yeah, I do. I actually I worked with Jay Wright as a sports psychologist for Villanova basketball for many years, and Jay Wright was involved with the Ripken Foundation. He's good friends of Cal Ripken. And but I didn't really know what they did. They provide baseball fields, multi-purpose, not just baseball fields, but multi-purpose synthetic surface fields for communities, lower income communities. And then they help raise the funds, and it's 50-50, maybe they raise 60% and the community raises 40%. But anyway, when Jeff told me about this, he said, "I know someone," I'll let Jeff tell his side of the story here, but he said, "I know someone who is actually the vice president of the Ripken Foundation, and he grew up on Purcell Hill. He went to Phillipsburg Catholic, graduated in '78 with Jeff, and they got reconnected not that long ago." And so he said, I'm thinking that Phillipsburg actually could be a community that meets a lot of the criteria. And so when I tell you that this is probably almost too good to be true, but it's really true, we started looking into it. I contacted Jay Wright and asked him if he would say something to Cal Ripken, that we were trying to do something from our side, get a group of voluntary private citizens to just look into it, do the legwork, see what, by the time we came to you, if it was actually possible. And Jay Wright got back to me and said, "We brought attention to your informal application. You're probably going to be hearing from somebody in the next few days," which Ed Tarker did. You heard from Chuck Brady, who was the vice president of the Ripken Foundation. And so we were still in the exploratory stage and put a group together pretty quickly, 13 people from the community. There's actually 3 of us who do not live in Phillipsburg, and 2 of the 3 are in Phillipsburg High School Hall of Fame. I'm not one of them. I'm the underachiever of the group. But we have Ned Bolkar and Ruth Gibbs, who actually, everyone either lives in Phillipsburg, works for Phillipsburg, or has Phillipsburg. We all have Phillipsburg in our heart. So we had a meeting of the committee, and that was 10/18. We had a lunch at Flynn's exploring this, and we actually decided to split up into 2 subcommittees. One would be the Planning and Design Committee, and the other would be the Resource Development Committee, which this committee would go out and try to raise the money. And so we got Chuck Brady to actually come up. We had a dinner at Flynn's, and the next week, it was Wednesday the 26th. And he was very impressed by the enthusiasm, by the backing. The Ripken Foundation will they take charge of the whole project. Even the money, they're a 501c3, so they're the 501c3 of record. But they're very choosy about what towns they award these opportunities to. And I think that Chuck Brady was, first of all, in his heart, he really wants to bring this to Phillipsburg. And just from the enthusiasm, and the people in the room, we just had this goal in mind with actually two goals. One, to get the approval from the Ripken Foundation, and then the second one was we need to go out and raise the money. So I'll let Jeff tell you a little bit more from here. He's given you the folders just to describe this opportunity, but it really doesn't cost the town any money. And what we're trying to do is identify the big donors, or where there might be some big funds. One of the things that we're excited about, as we really turn it over to you, is that we're looking at Walters Park. We had a meeting yesterday with the engineers from Sports Field that does all of the building for the Ripken Foundation out of Atlanta. And so their engineer architect has the dimensions. We talked about a field that would be in Walters Park, in the old baseball, so it would just be probably 160,000 square feet with an impermeable surface, and that would accommodate baseball, softball, lacrosse, field hockey, soccer, and with lighting. So this is, and to me, this is something that, combined with the pool, combined with what's going on with the youth center, like the total rejuvenation of a park that's geographically in the center of town, that almost any kid can walk to or ride their bike to, and to have something that's state-of-the-art. The Ripken Foundation has built 99 fields across the country so far, not one yet in New Jersey. So there's nothing like it. There would be nothing like it in New Jersey. And so just the idea of what it would do for our recreation, what it would do for our economy, in terms of monetizing, what it would do for our kids, and rejuvenating sports and bringing people in, tournaments and those kinds of things. That's all it would leave in the hands of Ed Tarpey and others of the town. But what we're doing now is finally ready to tell you this is what's going on. Here's where we have it. Anybody who wants to help and be a part of it, we welcome that, because now it's about, we hope to get the design concept and some imagery back from the engineers by the end of December, if not sooner. And then Chuck Brady will help our resource development committee. Beginning of the year, we'll really start in earnest going out to try to raise, we probably need to raise $1.3 million for our side of it. And then and Ripken Foundation does stay involved. Once you're a Ripken field, then just in terms of, they provide STEM education in the local schools. They keep you in their network of all of the other Ripken fields and all kinds of tournament opportunities, recreation opportunities, and so it's just a true gift that kind of came out of left field to mix the metaphors. But Jeff, you want to?
That's it.
And then we'll take questions. We'd like to know what your concerns are.
Yeah, I've never been to a council meeting before, so this is an experience for me. And on the way up, I called my mother. She said, "Don't say anything stupid because it'll definitely end up in the newspaper." But I'm sure Mayor Tersigni's mother did tell him to never wear a hat inside. But that's all. First, I do want to thank my neighbor and fraternity brother, Mayor Tersigni, who's allowed me to speak to him about this for the past couple of years, as it's it was a little hot for a while, and then it waned, and then it came back again. But Todd's been my #1 supporter through the whole thing, so thanks to him for allowing us to push it forward and be here tonight. I think The most important thing that you need to know about the Ripken Field, and it may be redundant from what Jimmy just said, but the Ripkens, Cal and his brother Billy, when their father passed away, began this fund. And via Chuck, who grew up on Columbus Avenue, they don't want one of their fields out in suburbia with the big Suburbans pulling up and the kids getting out of the cars. They want their field in town. They want it in a town where there's need. And they want that field where kids can walk who otherwise wouldn't have a vehicle to take them to that field. Literally and figuratively, how many towns have a field or a park like Walters Park in the middle of their town? And most everybody in this room, if you played ball there, you remember putting your glove on your handlebars and riding over to Walters Park. And it was a beautiful place, and it was kind of like the highlight of your baseball career was to play at Walters Park. So this is what Ripken does. They come into town, and as Jimmy said, it's just not a one-off. They don't wash their hands of it once the field's built. They want to stay involved. They want to make sure it's successful. Usually what you do is in the planning, the dollar amount, you set some dollars aside that will go in a fund that they're willing to hold down in Maryland to make sure that the field is maintained when we're all gone. There'll be money in that fund to continue to keep that field up and make sure it stays up to standard. They want to be involved with the local police. They want law enforcement to be there with the kids. So it's not just about learning how to throw a ball or kick a ball or whatever sport it is. It's about life, and it's about giving kids that don't have the opportunity, maybe the opportunity that Cal Ripken Sr. Created for his two sons to be able to play Major League Baseball together. I think at one point they were shortstop and second baseman together, and their father was a coach. So they want their success to be able to come to a place like Phillipsburg. And essentially what Chuck has told us, this might be wishful thinking, and I think we're reading between the lines, this is the people at the Ripken Foundation want this to work for Chuck because they know it's his hometown. So talk about the stars being lined up. And as Jimmy mentioned, a handful of people that we all knew, friends, interests, a couple of guys on council sat in on some of the meetings. So we're at that point where we want to get everybody else involved. I think for us to have that field put in at Ripken to do that work at Walters Park, council needs to vote on it, but we want everybody to be in agreement. As Jimmy had mentioned, it should not cost the town a dime. I think the agreement has, maybe some folks have seen the agreement. If not, everybody needs to see it. And then there's back and forth with you all and the legal staff with the folks at Ripken. So they have various offices at the Ripken Foundation that come forward. They'll identify the major donors in a 70-mile radius. They're in tight with Amazon. If you have a baseball field, Major League Baseball gets involved. If you have a football field, the National Football League gets involved. So it's bringing some pretty big players to town. And we think it's a win all the way around. And again, should not cost the taxpayer a penny. Not only that, it should maybe produce maybe that weekend baseball tournament coming into town where they're going to pay decent money to play on that field that ends up in recreation coffers that could benefit the kids of this town. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Again, I just wanted to thank Todd for everything he's done to keep that alive over the past couple of years. Questions? I don't know what's appropriate. Do we take questions? Well, if we don't have answers, we'll make stuff up. So go ahead and ask.
The questions will come from council. If council has any questions, feel free to ask them.
I have one question. What about the disabled kids in the town of Phillipsburg? Are there any events for that?
Yeah, so that was a discussion that was brought up at the meeting yesterday, and I think Keith and I maybe had that discussion. This field would not have anything for handicapped children, and we found out the technical reason, the surfaces are different. So the way I got reintegrated with Chuck Brady, I was at his wedding in North Carolina many years ago. Hadn't really seen much of him since. He stayed in Virginia. I'm a member of the Palmer Kiwanis Club over in Easton for almost 40 years. One of our members did a Miracle League field in Palmer, and that's how I got reintroduced with Chuck. Bob Landy came back to one of our meetings and said, hey, a buddy of yours from high school was up, and he's running Cal Ripken's foundation. I said, who's that? Chuck Brady. So Chuck and I kind of got back together again through that. They are two different surfaces, and it's almost impossible to put the two together. And the thought is from the Ripken folks is that the handicapped kids from this area could and or may already be using the Miracle League field that's over in Palmer Township on the Schrin property. They bring people in from all over the place. So that, but folks on our little group were asking about the integration of the two, and it's really not something that they like to do because the services are different. And everything else, all the accoutrement and everything else that goes with the Miracle League fields is completely different than what you'd have at a Ripken field.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Sure, the 1.3 million funding, how does that come about? I know you said it's not, is that like private donors?
Yeah, so I got a message from Chuck today. I said, Chuck, we're going to be in front of council tonight, and if the question's asked, we should really be able to have some numbers. He said, you're probably for the multi-purpose field, so they'll just do baseball, they'll just do football. We're looking at multi-purpose, which is kind of like premium for them. He said, you're probably looking at about $2 million.
Okay.
All right, he said it could be a little bit less, but you're probably upwards of that number. So one of the pertinent questions that I asked Chuck the last time we were together, I said, you do some fundraising for us, you reach out to the NFL, you've got connections at Amazon, all the other ones we listed. I said, you're doing that for us. What side of the ledger does that money end up on? Is it Ripken money? Ripken does $35 million a year, the foundation. They raise about $35 million a year, and it goes out. So I said, if we're doing $2 million, one on your side, one on our side, but you went to the NFL on our behalf, do you guys keep it, or do we get it? And he kind of looked at me and smiled and said, I'm the one that makes that decision, and I'm from Phillipsburg. It's almost too good to be true. He had talked, and Rich, I know you were maybe looking at the agreement. He said most of the attorneys that review our agreement, the one sticking point is that if we hit a Native American burial ground or there's tainted soil, that technically we have it as an out for us. We've never not done a field that we negotiated agreement on. We never backed out, not once. He said, if we hit a problem, we just raise the specs on how much money we need to raise, and we raise it. Real quick story about the Miracle League field in Palmer. Bob Landy had a ceiling of $750,000 to do this Miracle League field. They got it about $500,000, and they stalled. They couldn't raise any more money. So somebody had found out about the Ripken Foundation, got in touch. Chuck came to Palmer, and he said, the first thing you're doing is you're not asking for enough money. He said, wait, we want $750,000, we're stalled at $500,000. We can't, now, you don't get it. They moved it to $1.2 million, and in 2 months they had the money. So
let me ask you this. So this past weekend, we had the NJ League of Municipalities, and I spoke to county, state, and I guess future state representatives about funding for a skate park. They usually come in at concrete ones come in at about $500,000, one at that one road. So I found out that there's quite a bit of money out there in the state for these type of programs. Is that something that could help with this?
yes,
It is.
from what we understand. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Because there is, I didn't realize how much money is available if you just work hard for it. Because like with the skate park, the $500,000 is concrete. It doesn't include lighting, which that park needs, things like that. But if there's in excess of that, you know, $500,000 or $400,000, or if they go a different route with a skate park, maybe something that's modular or cheaper, that type of money is available, and that would be available.
Yeah, it
I
can,
mean, for
it can
your use, it doesn't like conflict.
Yeah, no, they do access public monies, that's not a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. The interesting thing, one of the interesting points that Chuck made too about Walters Park, he said we've got cities that come to us and it's a total revamp of an area. It's site planning, it's a whole bunch of things because there's no field there currently.
Yeah.
He said the fact that you guys have a field there already, he said that's half the battle. So if the town's okay with it, we just go in there, you've got parking there already, there's additional parking, probably 25 spaces on Warren Street that just went in. The pool's there, the youth center's there, so it's kind of a natural.
I do think, when you said that, people just come and play, like, currently we have a lot of people from around the Lehigh Valley who hold tournaments there, so it's not just a Phillipsburg-centric place. I think it would be good if possibly, you know, some of the other municipalities in the county, if there is some county money, or you know, they would have a stake, as Phillipsburg being its largest town and that being one of the largest parks, oldest parks in the area, it might be more of a community type bonding area as well, to have like that state-of-the-art type field in our county.
Randy, one of the things that we've learned a lot from working with Chuck just in the last 7 weeks, and if you think about the park itself as, like if we end up getting the money to get this done, it's not really a zero-sum game. I like your question, like, is it we're going to pay for this? Are we going to sacrifice something else? And where the money is available, oftentimes grant money, is something that's you're actually adding to an investment that's already showing that it's a winner. That the money that may come from state, may come from mobile or some other foundation is something that's worthy, and it's not just for the criteria, but it's not going to go there and then, you know, be wasted in a couple of years. And the idea that Phillipsburg would have the brand of Ripken Foundation Field, that gets people's attention. And so, so there would be more likelihood of other investment coming in to continue to build upon something that's already a force multiplier.
I think anybody who knows Phillipsburg knows that those outside areas, even like the municipalities, the different county, throughout the county, you know, we kind of all culminate at the same high school, a lot of us, or we played each other in different events and things like that. So by the time you got to high school, you were rivals, right? On the baseball field or football field, soccer pitch, whatever. So I do like the idea of maybe having some of those, you know, maybe including some of these towns throughout the county or the state or different counties to include. It would be a huge draw.
Yeah, and this is they call it the Ripken Youth Development Park. And so the more that it's utilized, the more I think it will draw more resources.
Sure. Yeah, they do come in on an annual basis to help you continue to raise money. So the Miracle League field in Palmer every year is a golf tournament. Chuck and 3 of his guys come up. They have Ripken signed jerseys, Ripken signed bats, all donated. They auction it off. They raise money. So they're very philanthropic, not only at the outset, but they continue to do that. And they even set up weekend, not tournaments, but the instructional sessions for kids that want to come. Football, baseball, mainly baseball because of Ripken, but so it's a relationship that they continue to nurture as you go forward.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Absolutely. One of the things that I'd like council to talk about too, to let us know, should we keep going? You know, we're transitioning. Is it something that you want us to keep going in terms of our efforts? Because this is for you. And then how do we start to transition over? Beginning with the approval and attorney review, and that partnership is going to be between the town and the Ripken Foundation.
Yeah, and once the field's done, it's the town's field. They turn it over. So the legal part, they build it. It now belongs to the town of Phillipsburg.
This is my first town council meeting too in my life. So we just dove in and we gathered other people to say, you want to be a part of this, you want to help, and you want to see something good happen. But we don't take ownership. We don't have any other business leverage on this at all. But we really are taking. I didn't think there would be so much joy involved. What we're all doing together. It's like this is really going to happen if we don't fumble in the red zone. Right? We're looking at we're really looking at the breaking ground together, all of us together, and then we're looking at cutting that ribbon, all of us together.
Yeah.
And it's for the youth of Phillipsburg.
And when you have the groundbreaking, you're out there with those construction hats on. Todd, nobody will see you shake hats.
Any questions?
Well, obviously, I'm on the committee, so I've been excited about this for some time. And as far as council's approval, I really don't think there's anything to think about. It's a great opportunity for our town, for the kids of our town, and I look forward to all the events that could be held there. Baseball tournaments, soccer tournaments, lacrosse, football. I think it could be, and to be the only Ripken field in all of New Jersey is something really special. So.
Yeah, so we only had a certain amount of literature that we were able to hand out, but go home, hit up the Ripken Foundation, and it's many pages of information about what they do and how they do it. And again, stars lined up. Chuck's from Columbus Ave. I ran into him because of my association with my Palmer Kiwanis Club. If the press is here, you don't need to mention Pennsylvania. Keep it on the Jersey side. But without that, I might not have known he was there. And then I talked to him about, hey, get your picture on the front page of the Express Times, do a $2 million field in your hometown. And so here we are. So the agreement is out there.
Yeah, so if I may, Council President, so my office is reviewing that. We are preparing a memo for circulation to the council on the agreement itself as proposed. We're going to highlight certain points of discussion for the council to consider, and then we can move forward at that point. So, okay. And I did speak with Chuck. We had a great conversation. Spoke for about 45 minutes. He, I guess, developed and then kept his southern accent because he does not sound like Mr. Phillipsburg.
One of the other guys that they all went to college together in North Carolina, he said, we were only down there 2 months and yet. So,
Lee?
Thank you, Council President. And not all of us that say y'all are from the South. Having the chance to also serve on the committee, I had the chance to learn a lot about this. And you hear a lot about the field of dreams, but I think tonight we just took one step closer to making it into a reality. So thank you all for taking the lead on this. Many people know that one of my top priorities and main passions is the environment and recreation. It's one of my top issues. And one of the things that really attracted me to the Cal Ripken Senior Foundation is their priority to underserved communities. If you go onto their website, you will see the representation of youth of color. As we know, many youth of color don't have access to these same green spaces, so the fact that they focus on communities like ours is something that gets me very excited about this. We've heard it already that we see these in only a select number of states across the nation, and we have none in New Jersey. Phillipsburg can have a national state ball, something that differs us yet again from all the other states in the region. And this will bring in new prosperity for the town, focusing around recreation. Not only will our in-town children and youth benefit from this because it gives them a safe and high-quality field to practice and play on, but we'll be able to bring in folks to rent out the field from out of town, out of state. It makes it a national staple to build around. And when you have a staple to build around, real development can happen. So when you're doing it through recreation, it says volumes, and it really invests back into the town because with those new funds, we're not just adding a new sustainable stream of revenue, but we're adding it back into our infrastructure. We're adding it back into our youth and building stronger children. There's a quote that Frederick Douglass once said, it's far easier to raise strong children than it is to fix broken men. And I think we begin by doing that through recreation, through sports, through any other activities that we can host on this field. And having that Cal Ripken Senior name attached to Phillipsburg will not only bring that, but any other corporate sponsors that they can bring along with them. That means we have new avenues to the NFL, to Nike, to Under Armour. They can become new partner sponsors in our community that can help lower taxes, help bring more name recognition to the town, help combat all the negative things that we see, and finally turn things positive. So this is a visionary thing that I can definitely get around, and I can tell you, you have my support on this from council. So thank you so much for bringing this to us.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think it's very, very exciting, and it's hard not to be excited when you talk to Dr. Brennan, and he's so excited about this whole thing. I've had a couple conversations with him, and the excitement just, is overwhelming, and for myself, and I think the whole council is behind you on this, and the councilor will, give us his view on this, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the vision on paper, and you guys are going 90 miles an hour. I mean, really.
We have our daily conversations with Superintendent Tarpey. He calls actually, and Tarpey again, okay.
It's amazing what you can get done, when you have such excitement. I thank you for coming out here tonight, and doing this presentation. I'm very excited, to support you and do whatever I can as a council president, for the time being anyway, to move this as far forward as fast as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to thank Todd again for giving us the green light, because he had me thinking, what are they doing? What's going on here? And he came to the first meeting, he said, go for it. Just go for it. And so,
Yeah, and we haven't really discussed it all that much. Jimmy touched on it earlier. We might be at a point where if you'll vote and accept the agreement, that we kind of open our meetings and our committee up to anybody here in the room, or anybody that wants to get involved. It truly would be a Phillipsburg effort. So at some point, we just kind of wanted to get our sea legs and see how to navigate to get to this point. And then the real important part is you folks coming back to us and saying, you're good, let's go forward. And then we're going to kind of probably reinvent the committee that we have to a certain extent to include anybody that wants to be involved. So,
Okay, thank you
we
very much.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.